All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of This Week in Charts via Carnivore Trades and Wall Street from Main Street. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find Jason on Patreon. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyway, let's get into it this week. So we had a pretty strong week here. Last week we talked about the close above that key 5,500 handle, right? So the low from March 13th and kind of the high pivot of that big reversal candle. We closed above that on the week. If we flip over to a weekly chart at 55.25, we essentially rallied almost 200 points, really. So 55.25, and essentially closing near the 5,700 handle at the end of the week. And a couple of things about that: we did reclaim this trend line that I've been following here. And that is a big bull bear line to me. So if bulls can hold that, again, that wrestles a lot more control back from the bears. And what's impressive is that we did it with some, especially beginning of the week and middle of the week, we did it on pretty negative news. So GDP coming in very weak. We had a labor market that was showing some weakness, at least on ADP, jobless claims. Non-farm payrolls did beat on Friday, but before that, we didn't have that greatest data, and the market was green each of the last 5 days. We actually broke a record as well, 9 straight green. That has not been done. It's not a record, but since 2004. I believe the official record is 14. I believe that was in the 70s, but nonetheless, a amazing win streak here for the S&P. And again, doing it on kind of weak data is usually kind of a hallmark that the market is able to shrug off bad news. And it's a sign that certain things can be priced in, and that does, cause these types of short squeezes. Now, we did get a little bit favorable data Friday. Jobs did beat, if you want to believe the BLS report. I think there was some downward revisions too, but that's par for the course. At this point, we also had a few positive things here. And again, when you have these big declines, any sort of positive news can cause these squeezes. And if you look here, this isn't even anything. I mean, this deal will probably take months, if not maybe even a year. But the fact that China is now actually actively coming onto the table here, as opposed to just being quiet like they were previously, that did cause another jump in the futures. I believe it was Thursday night, and the market was already up a lot, and we continue to rally into the end of the week. Also, Japan here, looking at, I guess, posturing with U.S. bonds is kind of a negotiating chip. So a lot of news here, a lot of things happening in this market. But bottom line, we did reclaim this trend line to me, and that's another win for the bulls here. That said, we still have the 200, the 100 moving average up here, and based on the work I've done here, technical and quantitative, 5,800 is a cap here for the near term. We do have the FOMC this week. There is only a 1% chance of a cut, so we're not going to get a cut. Perhaps Jerome Powell could flip and become dovish, though. It could be a dovish pause. You never know. He has done that before. He did it in December 2023. And maybe the market is pricing that in. But I would say here, we've gone up a lot. We're up from 2 weeks ago. This is 600 points here. So 5,100 to 57. So, if we're rallying into the Fed, you have to think that would be kind of a near-term, maybe a pivot point. And the question is, do we get a hard rejection here? Or can we consolidate sideways and push through that in time? I think either way, this is going to be heavy resistance between 5,750 and 5,800. So the market's going to have to do some backing and filling in order to get through that. But we do have the Fed this week. That will be a catalyst. We got through earnings, and mostly positive reactions here. Only Apple, really the big negative. It really wasn't even down that much. But I think a lot of this, this weak data and kind of weak earnings projections was kind of pulled forward a lot. I mean, this is a 22.5% drop in essentially 1 month. So it's a lot of projections being pulled forward, and that's why I think we're seeing this squeezing. But right now, 5,500 is going to be a little bit of support on the downside. We've got some gaps down here to fill if we do start to come back in. But right now, 5,800 is the big level. 490 on QQQ as well, which we did tag on Friday, and then 500. There is a lot of interest here, and we're coming not next week, but the week after. A lot of open interest there at that 500 handle on QQQ. So think of that as similar to being the 5800 handle on SPX, which is right up here with this pivot. So we're watching those coming into this week. The IWM also came nicely off the lows, up 2.25% on Friday, reclaiming the 50 moving average. Still behind here and still got a lot of work to do, but that has had a nice bounce off of the lows. The diamond here also closing right on the 50 moving average on Friday. Semiconductors here also up 3%. That was a good move there. Again, above the 50 moving average. Take a look at this monthly chart here. Now we close out the monthly. We sliced this trend line all the way up, all the way down here to the 50 MA, essentially retesting the 2021, 2022 highs, which kind of coincides with the fall 23 area, and then closing flat on the month. Just an unbelievable move here. By the way, speaking of monthly charts here, take a look at this Microsoft gap. I don't think I've ever seen a gap like that on the monthly. That is incredible. So they actually, this market did not have Microsoft earnings priced in at all. So pretty big outside move there. But nonetheless, semiconductors here, yeah, reclaiming this trend line here. And a lot of resistance up here around 235. There's a few other levels I'm watching as well. I mean, a lot of meat here in the 230 area. But nice reclaim there. IGV, which I've still maintained liking this much more. I think software is in a much better place than chips are right now, and that has had a full recovery. Trend is now up on the weekly and the daily. So a lot of chart repair in some of these sectors here. Transports here finally got a bit off the lows. This is still lagging, right? So this is a little bit of a red flag for the rally for bulls. You want to see that the transports at least catch up here, and if anything, they should be leading. And currently they're not. But 14.5 and then 15 even are your resistance levels for right now on the DJT. Interest rates got a bounce this week, and even with the bounce, you know, we did touch 3.6, actually below 3.6 on the 2-year. You know, you could argue, I mean, they're not going to cut, but you could argue the case that they should cut. You know, there's a case to be made. I mean, we're 50 basis points from Fed funds, and if we just retested the local low, we'd be almost 100 points away from current Fed funds. So you can make a case the Fed's behind the curve here. Left, you know, the next month or so will really tell us more. If we make a new low on the 2-year, that I would think a June cut is very likely. But right now, yields getting a little bit of a bounce towards the end of the week. 30s are still strong here, and 10s, again, kind of back testing this blue trend line here a few weeks ago and trying to put in a higher low back above 435. Does put this in a little bit more of a positive configuration, but yields holding up fairly well this week, and the market wasn't bothered by that because of the jobs report being positive. That's my take on it. XHB here, that was up 2%. That reclaimed the 50 MA as well. VNQ into a lot of resistance, but real estate had a nice bounce here. XLF, again, here's a positive for the market. Back above all the moving averages on the daily and weekly. So trend is back up here on XLF. Speaking of financials, a little side note, Berkshire, I'd be interested to see where this opens Monday. Warren Buffett now stepping down as CEO. So end of an era for that, and that closed at a new all-time high on Friday. KRE, they had a nice pop on Friday, again, back above the 50. A lot of these charts are very similar. Broker dealers, again, reclaiming trend on the daily and weekly. So a lot of repair being done here. Oil was down on Friday, was down on the week as well, but it did hold this prior level here. I'm just going to zoom out. So this pivot on the futures right around 56, 57. It's trying for a higher low here. I think it can try to rally back to 62. And we'll see what happens. I do think the shorts are offsides. If we get some sort of positive news here, this could be explosive. But you know, you do have some weakening data, so it does have macro pressure on it. But still a lot of shorts in this here. XLE, again, trying to repair. It's still lagging a little bit, but you know, it's trying to firm up here. Exxon actually had pretty good earnings on Friday. I do still own some Exxon here, and they did not decrease their buyback, which was pretty impressive considering the kind of pressures they've been going through. I believe Chevron did. So Chevron a little bit weaker there, but XLE trying to firm back up here. I do like this look on XOP. You can see here, I mean, this is an island here. So when you gap down and you just sit in that range, we call that an island. And, you know, we went and tested support. And essentially what you look for as a bull is just any sort of, it's tried to do it on Friday, but any sort of break above here can really get explosive. And you've got gaps here that can get filled. So essentially the premise is, you know, you get the panic sell, short sellers get stuck here. And, you know, if it pushes through, everybody who went short down here is now underwater and it causes a squeeze. So no guarantees that happens, but I would say there's pretty good odds. And you can see the similar setup there with the OIH. Uranium, CCJ got a nice recovery here this week. Again, so that continues to hold support. It's a big long-term level here. This was actually the Fukushima gap here, so that's interesting to see that being now held as support on the monthly. But yeah, it's holding up right now. URNM definitely has had a nice correction here. And it did close the week back above my yellow trend line there. So definitely starting to show a little bit of strength here with the rebound. And there's the NJ also bouncing as well. So these are definitely going through a corrective phase. But you know, they had nice runs over the last year or so. And you know, it's all just part of the market cycle. Nat gas getting a bid really all week. It had a catalyst Monday with the power outage in Europe, and it really just kept that strength all week long. So it's been holding, you know, held the 3 handle. As we said, you know, it's got to hold 3, and it did. So it had a nice week here, and this has been in a range right now, but this might be trying to consolidate on the monthly time frame here, and maybe trying to build a base for a rally later. So we'll just keep that on watch on the larger time frames here. Dollar index finally got a bounce. I think there's a little bit more for this, but it's still got to clear that 100 handle. The dollar yen had a really nice bid, a really nice risk on bid on Thursday, and that did come off the lows. It held this big weekly level right here that it's been, you know, essentially it's been the low for the last couple of years. So dollar index holding up and getting a bounce. I think there's a little bit more in the tank for that still. Gold finally dipping here. So we had a slight red week last week with heavy volume. Again, this may be starting to get ready to do some more extended consolidation. So it's been hot, and I believe I've got a chart here. I actually talked about this on my channel the other day, I believe, but most overbought since Feb 2008 on the RSI. Yeah, it can always go higher, but just giving you an idea of conditions there. So it's very hot right now. It exceeded my targets. I really had like 3,200 as max move, and we went to 35. So it definitely overshot here. I would not chase this rally, but yeah, it's been an incredible move here. You can see GDX also coming in and starting to show a little bit of weakness. So, you know, the market may be getting ready to do some consolidation. You see silver there with a possible lower high as well. Still has a very big, nice monthly base here. This is poised to break in due time. Platinum and palladium, kind of uneventful week here. Not a ton going on, kind of on sideways. The sideways side, rather. Palladium's interesting. If we can clear this trend line, I think we could see 1025, maybe 1050. But that looks like it's starting to firm up. Platinum's a little bit more cloudy here, so I don't like that pattern as much. Copper all over the map. So look at this rebound here, and then big sell on Wednesday, and then a small bounce back. I don't really see anything here. It's in a very wide range, and tough to trade this. Lastly, Bitcoin holding up pretty well. We've talked about this plenty of times here. You can see, again, speaking of reclaiming trend, again, back above all the moving averages on the daily and the weekly. So, I mean, as long as this 50 MA weekly is holding, this is in a bull configuration here. And I'm doing this video Sunday. We get the weekly close today. If we could somehow close, we're going to close above this pivot, or excuse me, this red bar high, it looks like. If we could close above this one, that would essentially negate this entire breakdown. So that to me is pretty bullish. So good action there for Bitcoin, and yeah, it's holding up just fine. So again, look for the market here I would say, we might get a little bit more juice out of this rally, but going into the Fed, if we're starting to get a little stretched here and overbought, we're likely to be pricing in any good news from the Fed, which it's interesting because they're not cutting, so I don't know the market's trying to price in a dovish Powell or what, but yeah, 5750 to 5800 is going to be pretty heavy resistance for right now. And there is some gaps down here if we do get a hard rejection, but yeah, right now 5500 here is still a pretty good support for SPX, at least for this week. And again, this trend line here, we can stay above that. That does give bulls more more control here, and again 5500 below that. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up here. Again, you guys take care. Don't forget to come find Jason on Patreon. Come find me on ConoverTrades.com. I'll see you guys all next week.